Facebook is a great way to connect. People plan events there, you can sell things. People tell me if they advertise on Facebook, they actually get more business. But anytime you combine 2 billion people in one location, people are going to try to exploit that for money, power, and influence. This is the third video of a series I'm doing on social media manipulation. Today we're going to look at the kinds of manipulation that happens on Facebook. Then we're going to go to Facebook and talk directly to the people that are trying to fight it. Because of how big and how global Facebook is, this is a very complicated issue. So we're going to start right here so that you can understand how serious this issue is. So this is Renee DiResta. She has studied social media manipulation for years, and we're going to talk about Facebook, right?
Okay.
Do you have specific examples of things you've seen on the platform Facebook where people have tried to manipulate others in this coordinated, inauthentic behavior?
It's such a global platform that it's a global problem. So you have things like the genocide in Myanmar, through the spreading of misinformation about particular ethnic minorities. And
to be clear, you're saying actual people died as a result of misinformation?
That seems to be the case, yeah. It appears that fake accounts tied to the military were used to create, kind of foment hatred against an ethnic minority.
You hear genocide in Facebook and you're like, what? I mean, the confirmation bias might even start creeping in. You start thinking weird things. But before we get out the pitchforks, let's think about this. Most social media platforms don't have a good handle on manipulation, but this specific thing is very unique from an engineering perspective. Think about Myanmar, a country where over 100 languages are spoken, the most prevalent of those being Burmese. This is what Burmese looks like. It's very different from most languages you've seen. Now keep in mind, most of the engineers at Facebook speak English, and more importantly, they code in English. So the challenge here is you have engineers, which, I mean, let's be straight up. I'm an engineer. We're not known for being socially adept, right? You have engineers creating code that uses math to convert these emotions into ones and zeros and then make decisions on ones and zeros.
Yeah.
How do you win that game? To say that a literal genocide happened because Facebook didn't do something, like a sin of omission, that's a very interesting position to take. Because if you think about all the actors involved, there are people actively trying to manipulate other humans. In one of their statements on the situation in Myanmar, Facebook says we can and should do more. But if you scroll down on the page, Facebook mentions supporting Myanmar's conversion to Unicode. Myanmar is currently the only country in the world with a significant web presence that hasn't standardized on the use of Unicode. Imagine being the engineer tasked with writing software to get through a language you don't speak into a different character set you've never used and try to detect deception in the heart of a social situation you don't completely understand. I bring all this up to explain this is a very real thing that happened, but it happened because there were very complicated engineering problems. Critics of Facebook are quick to point out that human moderation in the native language is the other piece of this puzzle, and they say that Facebook was too slow to take action given the situation at hand. This is a position Facebook is now publicly in agreement with. Okay, let's move on to something closer to home here, something you might see every day. The more likes or comments something has, the more likely you are to interact and read what those people are thinking, and those things will change the way you think about the topic. Sebastian Bay works for the NATO Strategic Communications Center of Excellence. Yes, this NATO. NATO is fully aware of the destructive nature of social media manipulation, and they're studying it to try to better understand how it works. What you're about to see blew my mind, because I had no idea this could happen so easily. So Sebastian, what's the deal on Facebook? Like, this is happening, and of course you're studying it on the black market. What are you seeing?
So to try this out and to show you what's going on Facebook, we've bought engagement on our own video. So we took one of our videos and I went to one of these companies that sell comments and views on Facebook videos. So when we looked at the bots that are engaging with our post, these same bots from this same company is manipulating politicians from Malawi, a politician in Brazil, a fitness coach, a hair clinic, some rap artist, one immigration company, and a company promoting the future of shapewear. So that's very interesting. So we're seeing political manipulation and we're seeing commercial manipulation at the same time by the same company.
So do these comments look authentic?
So in this specific case, I wrote the comments. So you go to this website, you just write your own comments in a long list, and then they get uploaded by bots.
That's a big deal, because that, it's easy to spot a bot if it talks like a bot or whatever, but if it's an actual human behind the manipulation, you're going to know the nuances of the social situation at play. So how does Facebook detect that?
So it's extremely difficult for them, of course, and that is why they are unable to counter this sort of manipulation which is evident when you are able to buy these services, and they get delivered within 15 minutes or 1 hour.
This is nuts. Sebastian wrote these comments himself, and then they populated in this online shopping cart like you're buying something from Amazon. If you look at the accounts that commented on Sebastian's videos, it's exactly like he says. They're commenting on other places all over Facebook. For example, this fitness coach, she also has 2 million followers on Instagram. The majority of the comments left on her videos seem to be written in a similar voice, like excessive uses of emojis, overwhelming positive. This is obviously meaningful, methodical manipulation, but the problem is we don't know who to attribute it to. We don't know if it's the coach, or maybe she hired a marketing firm and the marketing firm wants to show that they're doing a good job, or maybe it's somebody that wants to frame her for using bots. Attribution is almost impossible. The next thing I want to look at are efforts to polarize society.
So even in the US, to use a much less horrific example than the Myanmar genocide, the Internet Research Agency accounts during our own election were creating events. So they were holding rallies in the real world. So there was one event in 2016 where they set up 2 protests by 2 opposing groups, and you can actually go find the footage from this on YouTube. There's people with, White Lives Matter banners standing on one side of the street screaming at members of the Islamic Cultural Center who showed up to counter protest on the other side of the street. So this is a real world in the US.
Russia pitted 2 American groups against each other in physical meat space.
Yeah, literally across the street from each other. And you can see the footage is up on YouTube. The goal is not to just keep people mad online. The goal is to carry that with you as a person operating both online and offline. And
to fracture society.
Yeah.
You know the kind of stuff online that makes you mad, right? You pull up your news feed and it's full of nothing but polarizing, sensational clickbait. We're here at Facebook headquarters in Menlo Park, California. We're gonna go in and we're gonna talk to some experts. This is their job. They're working on this stuff all day long. Let's go see what we can learn. Okay, so Tessa?
Yes.
Tessa here at Facebook. Okay, so you are over the integrity of the news feed at Facebook.
Correct.
Which is a big stinking deal because that affects a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right? But you're actual people trying to actually solve these problems, right?
Absolutely. And we take that responsibility seriously. And we are people, and we're people who do this work because at the end of the day, we really care about the mission of this company. And we really care about the over 2 billion people who trust us to provide them with experiences that are meaningful and authentic and consistent with what they come to Facebook to have. Oftentimes, different companies, and we at Facebook do this, will draw a line and say there's a certain type of content that we're not going to allow on the platform. Right?
Pornography, for example.
Pornography, hate speech, graphic violence.
Right.
But what we see in the data, and this is not true only on social media, it's also true offline, is that as content gets closer and closer to that line, it can actually get more engagement. Right? So if you think about cable news, right? It can be more engaging when things get closer and closer to provocative, sensational. But we actually have the ability to try to change the shape of that curve so that as content gets closer to that line, it gets less engagement, not more. And that creates a better experience for people and a better environment for the community, while also making it a lot harder for bad actors to try to game the systems to achieve their own objectives.
Facebook has actual empirical data that says our hearts are naturally attracted to the extreme. It's no wonder that polarizing content works against us so effectively. How do you change the effectiveness of it? I guess the only way to do that would be present it less?
One thing we can do is remove. We only remove things that cross the line. Another thing we can do is reduce, which is what you're getting at. And that is reducing the distribution of it so fewer people see it. And the third thing that we can do is give people more information. Now, giving people more information can be in the context of giving them tips for how to spot things like fake news, which we've done and continue to do, or it could be giving them more context about what they're seeing. So for example, every link you see on Facebook in your newsfeed has a little eye icon on the bottom right.
Really?
And if you click on that, it'll give you more information about the publisher, other things that they've shared, and more context so that you can make a more informed decision about the types of things that you're engaging with on Facebook.
One of the things that Facebook discovered when they realized they were under attack is that these bad guys would purchase advertisements and put them on the internet to try to divide and anger specific groups of people. For example, Christians. The Internet Research Agency, that's the bad guys, they created this fake page called Army of Jesus, and they created ads like this. I want to speak to this one because I'm a Christian and I can kind of tell you what I feel. Every Christian I know would look at this and not only roll their eyes, but this kind of thing breaks our hearts. I want to keep my faith out of politics, so seeing something weird like this makes me sad because it feels like a fellow Christian just doesn't get it. The real thing that hurts here, if I'm honest, is I'm afraid my non-Christian friends will see this and think that that represents people that share my faith. Lowbrow, combative, easily manipulated. You see the play here? It doesn't have to be the legitimate viewpoint of anyone for this to be effective. It only has to vaguely resemble some semblance of truth, and that will plant the seed, and then our fears, biases, and insecurities will take over from there. Someone who would fabricate and distribute as a weapon a perverted version of my faith to be used against me and you, that's the kind of evil we're talking about here. And they did this with thousands of different ads across tons of different divisive topics. Honestly, how many good interactions would you have to have in order to offset the negative impressions caused in your mind by interacting with one of these memes? Well, to Facebook's credit, now that they understand these threats, they've developed mechanisms to try to defend against it. Here's the guy in charge of that. Okay, with Rob Leathern, am I saying that right?
That's right.
Okay, and you make sure that ads on Facebook are safe?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. So we work and are in charge of the ad review process, making sure that when an advertiser submits an ad, we're checking it. We use human review as well as artificial intelligence to scan ads and understand more about their content and make sure that the ads comply with our business policies.
Rob explained that one of Facebook's techniques to combat this ad manipulation is transparency. They created something called the ad library, so you can look up any ads that have been run on a particular topic and also see who paid for them.
When we have this archive of ads, I think it actually does give you some of that alternative viewpoint in that you can go and search and see what the opponents are running, the ads that you may not be exposed to at all. So it is extremely important to have these transparency tools that let you see all the sides of the story, because if you do have the ability to show one message to one set of people and not to another, it's also important to have a mechanism to see what that other story is that is being presented to people.
In my opinion, this level of transparency is a step in the right direction for the internet in general, because if there's one thing I didn't understand about this problem, it's the massive scale at which these companies operate.
The amount of effort that we're spending to stop this, I think we said that we have something like 30,000 people working on this problem, reviewing content,
What?
writing code.
Did you say 30,000 people?
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, but that still is, in some ways, that's still a small number of people compared to the scale of the content.
So we remove over 1 million fake accounts per day.
What? 1 million?
We use a combination of artificial intelligence and human review to identify fake accounts and to remove them from our platform, because fake accounts violate our community standards.
1 million fake accounts a day?
Over 1 million a day. As we get better at detecting automated fake accounts, bad actors create, which is a counter.
They have a countermeasure.
Exactly.
The accounts that were posting those comments on behalf of Sebastian, those were real people, like in the not too distant past. For example, a couple of weeks ago, they were sharing pictures with their friends of like proposing to their fiance and stuff like that. These are real humans, but their accounts have been hijacked and now they're upvoting and commenting on thousands of videos all over Facebook. If you were Facebook, what would you do right now?
At the root of all this is fake accounts. People are creating and running and maintaining fake accounts. It's a whole industry that's out there to manipulate them because there's a lot of money involved. Facebook has to rethink the way it does account authentication, and that's difficult for them, and that's why we haven't seen a solution yet. In the very beginning, the only way you could get on the platform was to have a university account. So the universities did the authentication. They vouched for who you were. Then they opened up the platform, and when they opened up the platform, it also opened it up for abuse. And for a long time, we haven't really understood how widespread this is. And as outsiders, we still don't understand that.
A friend of mine is the barber in our local town. The other day when I sat in his chair, he asked me if I knew anyone at Instagram, which is owned by Facebook. When I asked him why, he explained that his barbershop's account had been taken over by someone who had changed his password, and the email address registered to his account had also been changed, so he couldn't reset it. He had tried to contact Instagram via the built-in help pages, but nothing was working. I even helped him fill out an impersonation claim and send a photo of himself holding a government-issued ID ID in front of his business. I screenshot the account on the day that he told me about it when he was following just over 100 people. 2 weeks later, that account is now following almost 5,000 people. And what's even more upsetting to him is that they've changed his profile picture to something racy, and they're starting to send out messages to his followers with links to porn sites. I know you don't know this guy, but like, he's a pillar of the community. The sheriff gets his haircut at that shop. There's a lot of young students from the local high school that also get their haircut there, and they all follow him on Instagram. The hijacked account business is a gigantic issue because they work better than bots, and the bad guys want them. Think about it. Their comments and their likes are going to look like real humans because they were real humans. It's also a lot harder for Facebook to detect that, so we've got to figure out how to solve this problem. Nathaniel, how do you say your last name?
Gleischer.
Gleischer, okay. Destin Sandlin. So you
Nice to meet you.
are the cyber guru here, like cybersecurity, right?
I'm our head of cybersecurity policy. I deal with two types of threats. Traditional cybersecurity threats, that is actors that are trying to hack into accounts, compromise accounts, manipulate it that way. And then the second, what I think you're talking about, is information operations.
Okay.
Which is essentially any organization that's trying to manipulate public debate. If I want to convince you of something, the first thing I do is make myself look and sound and seem like you, because you're going to trust me more. And the second thing that I do is I make whatever I'm saying look really popular. And to get to that really popular piece, you can do it in a couple of ways. Obviously, there's been a bunch of coverage of bots and automated accounts that try to do this. That can actually be, particularly on our platform, it's challenging to run large networks of bots because the way that bots look on a social graph, the friend networks they have, it just doesn't look like real people.
Right.
And so we have automated systems that run to look for and remove fake accounts.
Nathaniel explained some of the techniques used by some of these more sophisticated disinformation campaigns.
We found this network that's very interesting. There was this group that on the one hand was creating what you would call fake news pages, right? Like sort of sensationalist stories.
Right.
On the other hand, they impersonated a known fact-checking group. And this was happening in Moldova, so in Moldova.
Okay.
And then they were fact-checking, among other things, their own pages, the pages they were creating. So they were sort of working on both sides. And the idea, we think, is to sort of undermine the perception that there's trust in anything.
Hot dang, man, that's awesome. You know, it's you have to respect that. You have to respect that. How the heck do you take that down?
In a case like that, right, what happens is we learn about this type of behavior, and then we have a team of investigators. And these are people who come from everything from the intelligence community to law enforcement to investigative journalism. People who understand how to run investigations like this. And you look at how are these different accounts and pages working together? What are they doing to try to conceal their identity? And really what we see most frequently is to deceive people about who they are and the source of the content. Right. So for instance, there's a newspaper that's running in a Eastern European country, and it's designed to look independent. But when we dig into it, we learn that actually it's being run by employees of, in this case, Sputnik. But we also see non-state actors engaged in this. So we've seen political parties use techniques like this. Time and time again, defenders are very effective in a security space. And the reason they're effective is because they control the terrain. They control the environment. So if the bad actor and the good actor are here...
Oh, you get to change the battlefield at any point you want.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're playing chess, and they make a move, and then suddenly you just move the chessboard.
A little bit. And in particular, what you think about is over time, you take the playing field and you want to tilt it so that it's harder and harder for the bad actors to get uphill. Right? And you can do that over time. We've seen examples of that.
I'd like to take a moment and issue a simple word of caution. Whenever there's a new threat like this that emerges, there's a period of time where people don't understand what's going on. And then shortly after that, people start to get it and catch on. At that point in time, people instantly want to fix it. Like write a law, regulate a platform, something like that. In fact, in this particular case, Facebook themselves are calling for that kind of regulation. If we're not careful right now and we react too hastily and create laws to try to clamp down on this, or we enact reckless regulation, it has the potential of only affecting the innocent. So if we're not careful right now, at this moment in society, at this moment of how we're defining what the future of the internet looks like, and we try to clamp down on these criminals, it's possible that we could end up making the chains that we're going to end up wearing. As long as there's social media and people are gathered and there's money and power and influence there for the taking, people are going to try to manipulate us. So we've got to be clever.
We know that the sophisticated actors, particularly the state actors in this space, part of their goal is to make themselves appear bigger than they are, to make people think that they're everywhere, right? People see anything they distrust or dislike, they think it's Russia. They think it's a foreign government. And we try very hard not to play into that and not to help with that. So on the one hand, it's important that people know the techniques. But on the other hand, You don't want to be hyperbolic about what you're seeing, and you want to be as factual and specific as possible so that people don't jump to conclusions and you don't feed
And they
into
don't
that.
freak out.
Right.
Thank you so much. You've given me a ton to think about.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
It's pretty
Thanks for taking
legit.
the time to
Thank you
talk.
so much. Yeah. I feel like this coordinated inauthentic behaviors thing that's happening on social media, I think this is like one of the big challenges of our day. I mean, this isn't just a Facebook or YouTube or Twitter issue or even Reddit. This is a Hotels.com issue, an Amazon.com issue. This is a big problem, and we have to develop countermeasures in order to combat this stuff. My whole point in this social media manipulation series was first to educate about what the problem is and hopefully arm you with a little bit of knowledge so that when you're on the internet, you can protect yourself. So if this series has earned your subscription, I hope you'd please consider doing that, maybe even hitting the notification bell. But more importantly, I hope you would consider sharing this with someone that you think might benefit from having this information. I want to say thank you to the companies that let me come in with cameras and ask questions and things like that. That was a big deal. Like, you took a risk on me, and you probably knew I was going to try to shoot straight down the middle. So thank you for letting me do that. I acknowledge and appreciate your transparency. I've reached out to Reddit. A lot of you have asked me about Reddit. I have reached out. We will see if they respond. I really think this is the big question for our generation. How do we move forward with a free internet, but in a way that people can actually interact in an authentic way? That's a challenging thing, and I look forward to seeing how we solve this problem. Last thing, I really want to say thanks to everyone who supports Smarter Every Day on Patreon. It's an honor to get to work on my schooling and try to answer these questions that are much bigger than myself. I feel honored to be able to do that. So thank you. I'm grateful. My family's grateful too. Thank you so much to everyone who supports Smarter Every Day on Patreon. If you're interested in checking that out, it's over at patreon.com/SmarterEveryDay. I'm Destin. Let's help the internet get smarter every day together. Have a good one. Bye.